Okay, so everyone is hearing me clearly. Okay, so if there is anything that you need my private attention, drop me a chat. Okay, so the more you guys participate, the faster we can end. Yeah? Okay, so when I ask a question, please help me to participate. So now, okay, I'm going to do a quick recap, okay, of what we have did 2 weeks back. Last week was what do you call that? A lecture test. Nothing much to recap for lecture test. Okay, so what did we actually cover 2 weeks back? Can anybody help me? How? Amanda, I think you were here. What did we cover 2 weeks back? Amanda? We're not looking at your notes though. Okay, Erin, I don't think you were here 2 weeks back. Okay, great. Yeah, I have one. Let me check the chat one. I can't. Okay, I don't want to put it on air. It's recording. Okay, let's do a quick refresh of your memory. Okay, so very important for you to try to recall what we have learned. Okay, if not, okay, your memory retention won't be there. Okay, especially when there is a lecture test or when there's a gap in between. Okay, our schedule. Okay, all the more. Okay, you should be mindful about the one that we covered 2 weeks back. Okay, so 2 weeks back, okay, we actually wrap up, okay, the policies part for the market failure, right? Okay, so yes, okay, so now I've given you the theme that we have covered. Okay, it's the policies that we have covered. So what are the 2 acronyms that we have covered? Okay, for policies. Still remember? The 2 acronyms. Without looking at the book, of course. Then after that, I will show the answer lah. Amanda, still remember? What are the 2 acronyms? Cannot. Okay, so quiet. I am going to assume that maybe not there. Maybe don't remember. Okay, so yes. Okay, so I have actually screened on I have actually screened it. Okay, so these are the 2 acronyms that we are looking out for: GEMS and plier, right? Okay, so for GEMS, we are specifically using them to correct positive externalities. Agreed? Okay, education-based policies are used to correct info failure. So I put a star here. So we did a recap, okay, for positive externalities. Okay, so government regulation, okay, direct provision or free provision. Direct and free is not the same. Subsidies. And subsidies as well. So for subsidies, I just want you all to be mindful. Okay, page 48. Okay, subsidies can be indirect or direct. Okay, so for my J2s who are watching this, okay, there will be an upcoming practice on indirect and direct subsidy. Okay, so make sure you know how to differentiate both of them. And we also learn about negative externalities. We have tradable permits. Okay, we have license and quotas. Specifically, we talk about bans. Okay, we have indirect tax. These are the main 3. Education is used to correct info failure as well. Okay, and we have some form of regulation. So I just want to talk a little bit about permits though. Okay, so from the past practices I've seen, okay, a lot of students are still missing out the concept of tradable. Okay, so you need to illustrate that the government will issue the permits, and there is a market for buy-sell of permits. Okay, who buys permits and who sells permits? Yeah, especially the buyers of the permits. Okay, you have to relate that. Okay, acquisition of the permits is going to relate to a higher cost of production. Okay, so they are forced to internalize the external cost. So the diagram is pretty much the same as what we see for a tax, okay, or indirect tax. Okay, so make sure you include this in your explanation, especially for the buyers. Okay, so this is something that I see that's often missing, okay, when we talk about permits. Okay, so for my year ones who are watching this episode, Okay, some of the hot favorite, okay, that they like to test is tradable permits and ban. Okay, especially a total ban, for instance. Okay, I think we have covered this, okay, in lesson 14 and 13, so I will not touch about this anymore. I'm going to move on to today. Okay, so today is a little bit different. Okay, we are moving on to a separate form of market failure. Okay, so just to put things in context, okay, we'll be learning asymmetric information. So asymmetric information can be seen as a separate branch, okay, out of what we have learned so far. So the only common theme that we can probably experience is what we call the educations, or rather the info failure. Okay, it's part of info failure. But other than that, okay, very little. There's not much diagrams to illustrate. Okay, it's one separate topic by itself. Okay, so my year ones, you probably don't need to know that, or rather, I don't think they are going to test you something that niche. My year twos who are attending this refresher course, you need to know. Okay, because as of date 2021, asymmetric information hasn't been tested since inception. Okay, this topic was brought in 2017. So for the past 4 years since inception, they haven't tested any single thing about asymmetric information. Okay, so the more they don't test, okay, the higher the probability lah. Okay, so good that you guys turn up for my year twos who are attending this, or for whoever that's watching this episode. Okay, please pay attention to what I'm going to say. So I'm going to list down the learning objective for today. Yeah, I hope my OneNote is working well. Okay, previously it was like messed up. Okay, keep having pop-ups. I thought got hacked or something. So the first thing, okay, that you want to be familiar is asymmetric information. What is the key definition? Okay, and how to categorize. Okay, so later on I will go through the specific categorization part. So the next part that we want to learn is after we categorize, okay, into the two subcategories of adverse selection and moral hazard. Okay, we'll go on to illustrate, okay, what are the key terms behind adverse selection and moral hazard. Okay, so make sure you know these two by heart, adverse selection, okay, and moral hazard. Okay, so I'll be using the book to cover that. Okay, I'll be using examples as well, okay, to illustrate how does adverse selection and moral hazard, okay, leads to an inefficient allocation of resource. So most of the time, okay, the keyword that you need to be concerned about, okay, please write this down. Okay, it's known as the concept of missing market. Alright, so a lot of schools use this, okay, or the concept of complete market failure, missing market or complete market failure. Okay, so I'm looking forward for you to include this into your illustration later on. Okay, so this is a two-part lesson. Next week, we'll be learning about policies to correct adverse selection and moral hazard. Okay, so for the viewers for this episode, make sure you watch the next lesson as well. Okay, or make time for the next lesson as well. Okay, if you want your scripts to be marked. Right, is everyone clear so far about the approach? Okay, adverse selection and moral hazard. So today we'll be touching on the surface of the problem. Alright, so what kind of problem are we concerned about? Okay, so I would like you to look at your book. Okay, your book. Okay, on page 49. Okay, does everyone have your book with you? Okay, if you have your book, please wave to the camera. So I know that you have your book. Thanks. Thank you. Alright, so page 49. Okay, you can see that asymmetric info and imperfect info, okay, they fall under the main umbrella or the main categorization of what we call info failure. So later on, this will be tested, info failure. So when we meant info failure, okay, it could mean that, okay, there is unawareness, okay, or full cost or full benefit, or what we call asymmetric information, okay, where one party has more info over the other, okay, and use it to his or her advantage at the expense of less informed party. So the keyword, please write this down, okay, is that, okay, the more informed party will engage in oppo what? Not phone, oppo what? Type it out. What kind of behavior will they engage in? Oppo. I'm considering to upgrade to an Oppo phone. So if anyone is using Oppo phone, please keep me in the loop. Yeah. Okay, opportunist behavior. Yes. Okay, great, Erin. Okay, opportunist behavior. Okay, so they would like to take advantage of the less informed party or less informed member. Okay, so later on, okay, we will see what are the key difference between the two. Okay, so whenever you see info failure based question, make sure you split them into the two halves, asymmetric info and imperfect info. So for case studies especially, I have seen increasingly that there are case studies that are testing you on asymmetric info. Okay, so you need to be very quick, okay, in identifying adverse selection and moral hazard. I believe some of my year twos who recently attended one of the lecture tests, okay, we have tested moral hazard before, right? Yes. Okay, you can see how this actually comes into the picture. All right. So having said that, okay, I will slow down. Okay, I will slowly break up. So we'll do a quick recap of imperfect info. Okay, imperfect info was actually covered 2 weeks back, or rather, the past 4 lessons of market failure 1 and 2. Don't know why I'm coughing. Right, so I'm going to show you the diagram. Okay, so I hope you guys still remember. I'm not going to redraw the diagram. Okay, so this can be found under page 52. Okay, so when we look at the concept of merit and demerit good, okay, let me quickly recap again. Merit and demerit will always contain 2 forms of market failure. Okay, we have positive externality, okay, or underestimation of true benefits. Okay, likewise for demerit good, we have negative externalities, okay, and underestimation of true cost. Okay, so for my RI friends especially, okay, the illustration that they use is a divergence of your benefit curve here for my RI friends only. Okay, the rest please stick to the book. All right, so later on, okay, during the time practice, okay, you are expected to bring one of this. Okay, so you can illustrate, okay, using the 6-step framework. Okay, how does underestimation of consuming, let's say, education, okay, let's say when you consume education, how does it lead to underestimation of true benefits? Okay, when we consume cigarettes, for instance, how do we underestimate the true cost? Okay, so I'm looking specifically for the 6-step framework. Okay, so you can actually fit it right here. So in case you are not sure what 6-step framework I'm looking out for, okay, I will just quickly recap down here. So you're supposed to, okay, identify and define, okay, the form of info failure. Okay, the form of imperfect info. Okay, I will be zooming into imperfect info. Okay, so you want to use an example, okay, or to illustrate, okay, how does what do we mean by the imperfect info? So in that case, if you choose cigarettes as an example, okay, let's say like if you use cigarettes, okay, you want to talk about, okay, the unawareness, okay, of the health costs, of the actual health costs. Alright, and you realize that there are some similarities between this and the externality framework. Next, you'll use the MPC and MPB framework. Okay, so for a cigarette consumer or a rational consumer, they'll consume up to MPB equals to MPC. Okay, so what's the MPB and what's the MPC of consuming the good? Okay, and you'll want to illustrate how the presence of unawareness, okay, leads to a divergence. Okay, or the awareness gap here. You realize that the gap down here, okay, it's not MEC or MEB. Okay, this is what we call an awareness gap. Okay, the awareness gap, okay, will lead to, okay, a divergence, okay, and under or over consumption. Okay, make sure you show the diagram. Okay, important to show, okay, the level of under or over consumption here. Okay, and the last part, okay, that you want to illustrate is how does this relate to what? Okay, how does it relate to dead weight loss or inefficient allocation of resource? Okay, so for instance, okay, for the cigarette part, okay, you realize that, okay, at the private consumption level, your MPC actual exceeds your MPB. Okay, or MPB or your MPB, so your MSB also can, depends on how your school actually categorize. Okay, this is actually MSC. Okay, MPC actually is MSC. So you can see that, okay, at the socially optimal, right, yeah, so you can see that, okay, at the private consumption level, okay, your MPC actual exceeds your MPB, or your MSC exceeds your MSB. So what's the significance of that? Okay, so for every additional unit of your cigarettes consumed, okay, the society will incur a higher society cost as compared to society benefit scheme. So you can see the 6 steps, okay, they are actually all, you can actually fit the 6 steps really nicely here. Alright. So I'm going to move on to the actual highlight for today. Okay, so today we'll be focusing on we won't be looking at imperfect info. We will look at asymmetric info. All right. So I will start off with adverse selection. So the very first thing that you want to tell me is that adverse selection, okay, is you want to start with a definition. Okay, so you can use EIM's definition. Okay, seller knowing more about the attribute. Okay, keyword here is attribute. Okay, of the good as compared to the buyer, okay, or vice versa. So it simply means that it can happen both ways. Adverse selection, there's a misconception here that, okay, a lot of students will perceive that adverse selection only occurs when seller knows more than the buyer. Not true. Okay, in fact, buyer knowing more than the seller can also lead to adverse selection. So the concept of adverse selection tells you that, okay, in your school notes, they probably use, what's the example that they use in your school notes when they talk about adverse selection? Do you still remember? What's the most prominent? Was it used car? Used car? Okay, so used car by far is the most common example. Okay, so yes, okay, I am so sick of car examples. Maybe today let's deviate from something. Let's use something more day to day. Do you agree, Ken? Okay, so I will show you how adverse selection actually occurs here. So first of all, okay, the definition is where seller knows more about the attribute, okay, of a good over the buyer. All right, so yes, okay, I'm going to use this example. I need you to look at my screen. Okay, I believe all of you, not all, okay, but most of you have an AirPod, right? Yes or no? I know Erin is using an AirPod. Is it AirPod? Yeah. So now we can actually take a look at the screen. You can see that this is, I actually got this from Lazada. Is it Lazada or Shopee? It looks like Shopee. Yes, Shopee. So what's the moral of the story? Okay, you can see that based on what the seller display, the AirPod Pro looks pretty decent, right? Yes or no? Looks pretty decent. But are we able to ascertain the authenticity of the AirPod? Things on Lazada, when you buy, you also got to be careful, right? Yes or no? Okay, unless you're buying from the real Apple shop, then different. Okay, but in this case, you can see later. Would you all like to see the actual price that's offered down here? I actually blank out the actual price. I want to use that as an example later. But okay, so probably you guys know better. Okay, for an actual AirPod Pro, okay, what is the retail price? Do you all know? Roughly, rough estimation. Could be. Yeah, I don't have an AirPod Pro. I can't tell. But sidetrack. Okay. Remember the gratitude term too. Okay, refer a friend to AirPod Pro. Then you'll find out the price. Okay, but that being said, okay, if we look at this profile of this seller, you can take a look. Okay, welcome to our shop, small gift. Okay, in most cases, I don't think that the English also look legitimate. Refunds and okay, so so we have a common consensus that anything that we don't get from the actual shop, okay, there is a chance that it's going to be not the actual good, right? Okay, there's a chance that it can be inferior or a low quality product. Am I right to say that? Yes or no? Okay, but can this seller be legitimate or can or not? There is a chance that this seller, okay, they have good access to high quality goods. Okay, probably their relative can get exclusive access, okay, from Apple. We don't know. Okay, but anything from mainland got to be careful. You see mainland down here already. Yeah. So okay, we wouldn't know. Okay, and we wouldn't know the authenticity, but okay, we got as a consumers, okay, if we cannot tell the authenticity, whether is it a good quality AirPod, okay, or a poor quality AirPod, okay, what do we do? Okay, what is the next best? Okay, let's consider this. Okay, we have a low quality AirPod. Okay, we have a medium quality AirPod. Low quality means inferior lah. Okay, and we have a actual AirPod, actual. Okay, if we cannot differentiate these three AirPods, right? So what do? We understand just now that just now Erin mentioned that okay, the actual AirPod costs $300. Okay, but if we cannot tell the authenticity of the AirPod, okay, what can a consumer likely do? What will the consumer likely do to acquire this AirPod? Will they offer the full price? Yes or no? Unlikely that they offer the full price, right? So what do? Okay, so they will probably make a guess. Hey, maybe this one, maybe a lemon. Another common term in adverse selection is lemon, right? Okay, so okay, there is a chance that you will actually bite lemon. What's the aftertaste of lemon? Sour, right? Okay, it's bitter and sour. So there is a chance that you will get the taste of bitter and sour. Okay, let's say if you get a good, there is not so good or not authentic. So we realize that probably, okay, of a low quality product, your willingness to pay is $100. Let's come out with hypothetical figures. Okay, the actual product is $300. Okay, so what is approximate willingness to pay? Okay, if you cannot tell the authenticity of the product. Okay, so based on these two, okay, I'm just coming out hypothetical figures. Okay, am I right to say that you're going to maybe pay $200 for this? From the one that you see on Lazada or on Shopee. Alright, so let's say if you are a consumer, okay, you cannot tell the authenticity of the good and the producer has more superior info over you, that's for sure. Okay, they know the authenticity of the product. They know whether is it a true, okay, or a fake. Okay, or even if it is a fake, they know is it a good fake, okay, or a lousy fake. Agreed? So they have superior info over you, okay, but they are not going to tell you the truth. So for you got to make a guess. And if you make a guess, you're going to make an offer for a medium quality AirPod. So what happens to this poor seller? Okay, if this poor seller is an actual good quality seller from mainland, which is very unlikely, but let's say okay, they're actually selling good quality AirPod, okay, or genuine AirPod from mainland. Do you think they will accept $300? Yes or no? Oh, sorry, do you think they will accept $200 if they're selling an authentic good? They won't, right? So I want you to focus, okay, that because of asymmetric info or unequal info, this will lead to an attrition or a missing market of good quality products. This is how it causes market failure or inefficient allocation of resource. So we realize that as a result, okay, the market is going to split, no more. Right? Okay, if you are selling good genuine products, okay, on Lazada, okay, then people cannot tell the authenticity. They offer $200. You take them, you perceive them as trying to lowball you. What do? You stop selling, right? Go elsewhere to sell. So Now, okay, let's look at phase 2, stage 2. What happens in stage 2? You realize that the market, okay, will be saturated with lower quality and medium quality products. Yes? No more actual product or no more high quality product already. Agree? So now you as a seller, you as a buyer, okay, you know that okay, eventually actual products will be actually squeezed out by lemons. So now what would you do? Okay, out of the two choices, you know that there are no more peaches out there already. Okay, only left okay, good medium quality and low quality, but you cannot ascertain the value again. If you are looking for a medium quality product, you cannot ascertain at all, right? So what would you do? You are likely to offer an in-between. Make sense? Okay, what happens when you offer another in-between? Okay, you realize that if you are a medium quality product seller, okay, let's say this AirPod that you are selling has some defects, but it's still genuine. Okay, selling at 200. Okay, maybe it's the refurbished product. Okay, but consumer cannot tell. So would you accept $150 if your cost is say $200? Unlikely, right? So you can actually see that next. Okay, the medium quality products, okay, will be squeezed out. So adverse selection tells us that eventually, okay, the market will be flooded with lemons, okay, or low quality product. Okay, and good quality products, or what we call the peaches, okay, will be missing. Okay, because of opportunist behavior like this. Because sellers are deliberately withholding info. They won't tell you whether it's a genuine product or not. You have to make a guess. Okay, and if you guess wrongly, okay, in this case, okay, the market okay will be in an unfavorable situation. Okay, saturation of low quality product. Okay, is it a favorable outcome? No good, right? Okay, so make sure okay you can bring up all these few words that I talk about: opportunist behavior, unequal info between buyer and seller over the attribute of a product. Okay, and illustrate okay how does the presence of low quality product eventually squeeze out okay the high quality product, okay, or what we call the lemons actually take over the market. Okay, is everyone clear? Okay, using this example, okay, would you all want to find out the actual product of the price of the AirPod? How much are you willing to pay okay for that? Come on, let's do a quick market survey. Erin and Amanda. Oh, hey, this is low ball. Nobody will sell you this. Amanda, how much are you willing to pay? Not sure. Try a number. Then I remove. Erin, got to revise your offer. If not, you remember recently there's this carouseller who. Okay, so I'm going to shift this away. I don't know whether can or not. Okay, so okay, the actual price is that they offer is 166 lah. Well, I often tell my students that anything that comes that looks like a good deal, okay, is often too good to be a deal. Okay, especially for electronics. Okay, go to the shop itself. Don't buy from all these third-party shop. Yeah. Okay, so it's very likely that this is going to be a good fake, okay, or a bad fake. But how good is the fake, we don't know. Okay, but personally, I won't pay 166 for this. Okay, and realize that, oh, maybe it's a good fake. Okay, but if nobody is buying, okay, they will be squeezed out of the market because there are really nasty fakes out there. Okay, so I hope you guys found some value in how adverse selection actually occurs in our day-to-day activity as well. Okay, so just now I was actually saying about the seller part. Okay, so now seller over buyer, seller has more info over the buyer. So are there any instances where buyer has more info over the seller? Okay, what was the example that's used in your school? Okay, can you all type out? Right, insurance. Amanda, do you remember? Was this covered in your school? Covered already, right? Okay, good. Yep, so insurance. So how does insurance actually comes into the picture? Okay, if you understood what I have been drawing, okay, then you should understand the next one. Okay, do I have this? Okay, maybe delete this one. Okay, so we actually have I actually did a screen capture lah. Okay, so now we have a insurer down here. Let's call this. What is the insurer that all of you are aware of? Any of your family members are into insurance? What is one insurer that you know? Private insurer or public insurer, doesn't matter. You just come up with an example. NTUC. Okay, let's call this NTUC, for instance. NTUC. Okay, this insurer is NTUC. So now you can actually see that there are three person who wants to acquire insurance. So the insurer is going to offer health insurance or life insurance to these three. And now here's the problem. We do know that for people with poor quality of their health or with some pre-existing condition, do we agree that they fall sick easily? Yes? And what happens when they fall sick easily? It means that they are going to make frequent claims from the insurer, right? And drive up insurance premium or insurance costs. And likewise, for someone who is reasonably healthy or healthy, the occurrence or frequency of them seeking medical treatment and getting insurance cover is going to be substantially lower, right? So now, if you are insurer, you are actually clueless, what kind of premium what kind of premium are you going to offer, to the buyers? Why? Because you don't know their health condition. And of course, for low risk consumer or low risk consumer, you want to offer them a premium that is lower. And for high risk consumer that probably needs frequent medical treatment, you want to offer them a premium insurance package that's going to be more costly, because you do foresee that they are going to seek a lot of claims in the future. Do we agree on that? But if we were to look at these three buggers, we can't really tell who is healthy or not. So this is where adverse selection comes into the picture. The buyer will know more about the attribute of their own health as compared to the seller. Agreed? Well, the seller has no way to ascertain who is healthy and who is not. So let's come up with a scenario. We have a poor health guy. We have a reasonable health guy. We have a healthy guy. But you can't tell based on how they look like. So let's come up with a situation here. So for the healthy guy, the premium that they are willing to pay is probably $50. Someone who is reasonably healthy, they are willing to pay a higher premium, for the insurance. And you realize that the people with poor health, they are willing to fork out a lot of money to acquire insurance. So now, if you look at these three guys, if you are not sure how to price your insurance product, so what is a likely price you would like to offer to these three? What's the likely price that you offer your insurance to the general public? If you cannot ascertain whether someone is healthy or someone who is poor. Likewise, you are going to make the same, you're going to assume that everyone is reasonably healthy, right? If you price it too low at $50, you realize that the ones that are of poor and reasonable, the ones that have poor health quality or reasonable health, they'll be more incentivized to acquire at $50, and the insurer will be unprofitable. So you want to price it nicely, just that it reflects the risk profile of the consumer. Do we agree on that? So the lower you price, careful, the lower you price, you got, if there are more and more take up by the poor health or the reasonable health, it will drive up your premium cost, okay, because they'll be making more and more claims. So let's say, okay, if you are not sure, okay, you cannot tell whether this guy is healthy, this guy is not, okay, you make an assumption that everyone is reasonably healthy. Okay, you will offer them an insurance product that costs them $100. Okay, and you can actually see this. If you are healthy, or you are extremely healthy or a health freak, okay, do you foresee yourself falling ill? Not necessary, right? So if you don't foresee yourself falling ill and actually utilizing the insurance that often, and it falls beyond your willingness to pay of $50, will you pay for that product? Okay, you probably will stop, okay, acquiring insurance, right? Because number one, okay, I'm generally healthy in the first place. Number two, okay, it is priced beyond my means. Okay, because I'm healthy, I don't think I should be paying that much. Okay, and you realize one thing. Okay, in the insurance market, the healthy people will start to exit, or there's an attrition of healthy insured consumers. So you will be stuck with these two categories: people who are reasonably healthy, okay, and people with poor health. So is it good news for the insurer? Okay, without healthy people, no good, okay, because the insurer need healthy people in the pool, okay, because they don't claim that much as compared to reasonably poor, health people and poor health people. So if you were to use the same logic, okay, phase 2, okay, we are left with people who are reasonably and poor health. Okay, if you cannot ascertain who is poor or who is reasonably health, okay, but you do know that the market is saturated with these two, okay, you are going to price your insurance at in between. If you price it too low, poor people will buy more. Poor health people will buy more. You'll drive out your premium cost. Alright, so we can also see that similarly, if you price it in between, okay, this falls out of the range of reasonably healthy people. What do? They stop buying insurance. Right? So they say that I'm reasonably healthy. Okay, I don't think I'm going to fall sick as much as the people in poorer health. Okay, and I'm probably better off without insurance. So what can we predict from this scenario? Okay, we can actually see that as a result of adverse selection, okay, if the insurer cannot tell about the health quality of the insurees, okay, or the insurees deliberately withhold information about their health, okay, you realize that eventually the market will be saturated with what? Okay, insurees with poor health quality. And what happens when there's insurees with poor health quality? Number one, they will make often claims. Okay, and often claims is not good for the insurer. Why? Because the insurer will be unprofitable. Okay, and is insurance a good, or is insurance desirable in nature? Okay, it can help you to defray risk, right? Okay, but you realize that if everyone of poor health quality acquires insurance, drive up the insurance cost, do you think the insurer, okay, will still stay in business or continue to offer insurance? I mean, they don't want to be an unprofitable business, right? Okay, so this will lead to a missing market of insurance. So point here that you want to note is, okay, this is an example of buyer over seller. Okay, the examples that I use is like what you guys mentioned is due to insurance. Okay, so make sure likewise you bring in the concept of opportunist behavior, buyers knowing more over the seller, okay, and seller is unable to ascertain, okay, the attribute, okay, and therefore, okay, they are going to incorrectly offer or price their product, okay, and therefore this starts to price out, okay, desirable attributes. Okay, essentially the market will be saturated with undesirable products or undesirable attributes. Alright, clear so far? Alright, so now we will be moving on to moral hazard. Okay, so moral hazard. So these two are the most classical examples of adverse selection. Okay, moral hazard. Okay, I'm going to move on to moral hazard. I'm glad I'm doing with good well with time. So if we were to look at the book itself, okay, the book tells us, okay, a situation, okay, in which economic agents undertake greater risk that they normally would, okay, as the result of costs will not be borne by them. Okay, so if you want to categorize these two, okay, there is a very, very specific term, okay, that you can actually consider. So you realize that for adverse selection, it tells you that, okay, seller knows more about the attribute, okay, over the buyer. Likewise, vice versa. So for moral hazard, there is an alternate perception. Okay, you can consider using the B word. Okay, what is the B word? Okay, where the economic agents undergo a change in what? Change in behavior. Okay, change in behavior, very important. Okay, so how do we actually ascertain, or how do we actually illustrate the change in behavior? So you can see that, okay, let's come back to the example. So what is the similarity between these two that you see? These two activities. Okay, so you can see that bungee jumping and speeding, both of them incurs high risk, right? High risk activity. Make sense? So if you realize that, okay, and these two are actually very close to insurance. I realize that insurance, there's a lot of moral hazard problem. So I realize that, okay, if the insuree, okay, knows that they are going to be fully covered by insurance, okay, of risky behaviors, okay, what would they do if they know that they are going to be fully insured? Okay, they'll take on more risky behaviors, right, like skydiving. Okay, and likewise for car insurance, if you know that your car is fully insured, okay, of any accidents, okay, this will what? Okay, this will actually create incentive for you to speed, right? Okay, so you realize that there's a fundamental change in your behavior after, okay, you actually acquire insurance. And that's the thing. Okay, you realize that, okay, the insurer, okay, will not be able to monitor, okay, what you do, okay, especially speeding. Okay, how would they know that you're actually speeding? Okay, so there is a very high monitoring cost, okay, that's going to be borne by them. Okay, they cannot control what you do. All right, so you want to talk about change in behavior, okay, and you know that once you are fully covered or covered by insurance, okay, you can assign the cost, okay, to the insurer, knowing that you're fully covered. Okay, so let's say if you go for skydiving, if you are injured, okay, you can pass off the cost to the consumer, not consumer, the insurer. Okay, if you're talking about car insurance, if speeding, okay, if you get into an accident, okay, the insurer will actually cover the repair costs. Okay, but if you are going to bear the cost yourself, will you do that? Okay, if you get injured, okay, while doing skydiving, and if you are not covered by insurance, would you still skydive? Unlikely, right? Yes or no? Unlikely. Okay, likewise, okay, for speeding, okay, if your car is not insured, okay, do you think you will speed? No. Okay, so you realize that there's a fundamental change in behavior after the transaction. So one of the key difference between adverse and selection is also the timing of the transaction. Adverse selection occurs before, okay, whereas moral hazard occurs after. All right. So there is one more, okay, that I want to bring to all your attention. Okay, so applicable for RI students and VJ students. So coincidentally, both of you come from these two schools. Okay, so yes, okay, listen carefully. Okay, so this is not in EIM. Not in EIM. Okay, so the reason why I took out this from EIM is because initially when we published the book, I wanted this in. Okay, but when we were checking most of the school notes, we don't see the concept of PA problem. And that's why we decided to take out. So what exactly is PA problem? It's another category of moral hazard. Are you familiar with PA problem? Okay, principal agent problem. Right, so for my VJ friends, okay, you probably know this better from the medicine perspective, okay, known as supply induced demand, SID, right? It should be in your notes lah. Okay, so I will briefly illustrate, okay, this scenario of principal agent problem, okay, and how is it related to supply induced demand. Okay, so you may want to copy this down, okay, because it's not in EIM. Okay, so later on during moral hazard and adverse selection, you just need to bring up one scenario. Okay, whether seller knows more over the buyer, okay, or the other way around, just one. Okay, likewise for moral hazard, you can bring in about the assigning of the cost, okay, to a third party, okay, knowing that they will not bear the full cost, or you can choose PA problem. Okay, don't bring in both. So what exactly is principal agent problem or PA problem? Okay, so you realize that there are conflicts, okay, in priorities, okay, between a person and representatives authorized to act on their behalf. Okay, so let me repeat. Okay, so PA problems tells you that there is conflict in priorities, okay, or hidden motives, okay, between a person, okay, and representatives that's representing the person itself. Okay, so I'm going to use an example. You probably can learn this better. So we can actually see that, okay, this is someone seeking medical treatment, right? Okay, so we will call this old man the principal. Okay, and this doctor the agent. Okay, so the principal or the person, okay, is actually seeking medical treatment or medical advice from the doctor. The doctor is the person that is going to act on behalf of the principal. It's going to tell the principal, okay, what kind of diet to do, to have, okay, what kind of medicine to consume, what kind of medical treatment, okay, to pursue. All right, so we can actually see that on surface they have a compatible agenda. Okay, the compatible agenda is what? Okay, is to fix your health. Right? But what other incompatible agendas can be there? Or what other hidden agendas can be present for the doctors, especially? I put hidden, okay, or conflict or priority. Anybody knows? Alright, so you can actually see that, okay, if the agent or the doctor, okay, if their remuneration or or how are they incentivized is through recommendation of medical treatment. Okay, so you'll realize that the agent, okay, has a hidden agenda. Okay, the hidden agenda is to, okay, oversell, okay, or to promote, okay, unnecessary treatments to the principal. So now, okay, who has more info? Okay, agent or principal? Here. Okay, the agent is likely to know more, okay, as compared to the principal, right? So if you are the gullible principal, okay, are you more likely to be deceived by the agent, okay, and consume more medical treatment? More likely, right? So how does this lead to market failure? Okay, you realize that this is what we call overconsumption. Alright, so maybe, okay, the principal needs only Panadol. Okay, but the agent, okay, can probably can actually prescribe a lot more medication that is not necessary, like vitamins. Okay, whatever pills that the principal no need. It's good to have, but no need. Okay, in this case, this promotes overconsumption of medical treatment. Okay, so for my VJ friends, you can actually see that this is what we call your supply-induced demand. Okay, his supply is where the agent comes into the picture. Okay, they actually promotes higher demand or unnecessary demand of a good. We call it SID here. Alright, so not all schools use SID. Okay, but what I do see more commonly is the concept of principal agent problem. Okay, so I hope you guys got the definition right. Okay, so I don't recommend you guys to use this approach, especially students, schools who don't use this concept, don't use this. Okay, because I do see some students getting marked down, okay, if they use principal agent problem, okay, when their school doesn't use that. Okay, so always check with your school notes. If you're not sure, check with me. Okay, I'll let you know. Clear? Okay, so far so good about adverse selection and moral hazard. Okay, and how this leads to missing market, okay, overconsumption, that kind of thing. Okay, likewise, I forgot earlier on. Okay, you realize that this will lead to overconsumption of insurance also. Okay, overconsumption of insurance will lead to what? It will lead to the insurer being unprofitable. Okay, and probably will close shop, missing market happens. Okay, so you can see that out of all this, okay, there's some similar themes between the three. Number one, okay, there is opportunist behavior in everywhere, no matter buyer over seller, seller over buyer over the attribute, okay, or even for moral hazard. Okay, even doctors can be opportunists, okay, because of unequal info. Okay, and this will lead to missing market, okay, as what we have seen, okay, or overconsumption for moral hazard usually. Right? So, having said that, okay, I am done with today. Okay, I hope you guys have a adequately better off as compared to where we first started in your asymmetric information. Okay, so all you need are the keywords that I've mentioned earlier on. Okay, and to deliver them properly later. Clear? Alright, so we will be going for a break. Okay, so we're counting on you to come back shortly so that we can start and end on time. Can? In fact, earlier. Today I suspect can earlier. Clear? Okay, so I will see you guys in a short while. Okay, thanks. If you have questions for me, you can stay back and ask. Hey, Amanda, how are you? You can PM me. Hey, thanks. Can I start, girls? Good. And then we end earlier. Okay, so I need your help, okay, to open the LMS. Okay, you should be seeing this question. Okay, lesson 16. Do you see the same question? If you have, please give me a thumbs up. Okay, great, thanks. Okay, I don't have much to add on to this question. Okay, so the only thing that I want to talk about, okay, is this question is info failure. Okay, you need 3 points. Okay, so point 1, okay, will be imperfect. Okay, point 2, adverse selection. Point 3, moral hazard. So make sure you group it like that. For imperfect, I don't need both. Okay, you can bring in a perspective of merit or demerit good enough. Okay, bring in the info failure part. Okay, adverse selection, you can either tell me the scenario of seller knowing more than the buyer or buyer knowing more than the seller. One out of the two. Moral hazard, okay, we can talk about PA problem. Okay, or you can talk about the definition based on what I talk about definition of the assigning of risk, okay, to a third party. Okay, choose one out of the two. Okay, so remember, don't write all 6 points. Okay, it is 3 solid good points with good examples. Clear? So having said that, okay, we will officially start. Okay, I'm going to give you slightly more time. Okay, the actual timing is 17 minutes. Okay, for this class, I'll give 20 minutes. Okay, so please come out with a good solid essay. Okay, so having said that, good luck. Okay, you can start right now. Right, you have 9 more minutes left. Alright, finish up your last sentence. So once you're ready, you can turn on your webcam. Right. Erin, once you're ready, you can turn on your webcam. Right, Erin, please turn on your webcam. Time's up. Right, so yes, okay, I will be going through. So before I go through, I'd like you guys to see a special guest. Not sure whether you all can see the special guest here. Hey, if you all are seeing the special guest, we say hi. We say hi to the special guest. Okay, I hope you all have fun. Okay, so yes, okay, I'm going to go through together. Okay, so please take out a green pen. Okay, if you have a green pen, please take out. Okay, so, and wave to the screen so that I know you're ready. Amanda, you have your pen, right? Yep, thanks. Sorry. I'm not sure what happened to Erin, okay, but I'm going to start anyway. Okay, so how do you find the script though? Okay, Amanda? Doable? So? Doable, Doable, so, yeah, so. Doable, yeah. Right, so now let's quickly look at the requirement of the question. It's not difficult, okay, so for this question, okay, the only concern is the execution. Okay, how fast can you illustrate the 3 points? So I'm going to list down what are the good to haves and what are the must haves. Okay, so now let's quickly look at the question. We can see that the question requires us to look at private decision making. Okay, private decision making usually involves MPB and MPC. Okay, especially for the info failure, imperfect info side. For asymmetric information, adverse selection and moral hazard, not so much. So you want to list down the 3 different types of info failure. 3 types I've mentioned earlier on. Okay, what are the 3 types to look out for? Okay, so make sure you're able to execute this properly. Oh, I forgot to share screen. So sorry. Oh, thanks, Erin. I saw your text. Yeah, luckily, if not, I would have recorded. Okay, recorded crap. Yeah. Okay, so this is what I meant. Okay, private decision making usually MPB and MPC. Okay, so different types of info failure. You need 3 types. So having said that, okay, let's quickly look into what are the good to haves. So the good to haves that you want to include in your introduction will be the decision making framework. Okay, of MPB and MPC. So this is good to have. So if you realize that if you are a slow writer, these are exam tips. If you are a slow writer, you realize that you especially if you are doing for your promos, okay, this is your last question. Okay, you are left with half an hour. Okay, then don't bother with the intro. Go straight to the 3 points. Okay, so you have to factor in okay, what are the points that are going to give you more marks. But if you have more time, then you want to illustrate, okay, how does a private decision maker make rational decision? Okay, so they will make up to MPB equals to MPC, right? So I'm not going to elaborate more here. Okay, MPB and MPC is something that's quite standard across our program. We have emphasized it so often. Okay, so you want to come up with the key definitions of what we call your asymmetric information. Okay, you can quickly define what is market failure first. Okay, you can define asymmetric information. Okay, so asymmetric information has two subcategories. Okay, so the first one will be adverse selection. Okay, and the next one will be moral hazard. Have I defined info failure or imperfect info? That's a strange thing. Okay, I don't know. Imperfect info. Yeah. Yeah, but strangely, I didn't define imperfect info. Yeah, I'll insert a definition. Okay, but anyway, okay, notice that asymmetric information, okay, there's two subcategory. Okay, so make sure you're able to define asymmetric information first, okay, before you talk about adverse selection and moral hazard. Okay, so the subtle difference between adverse selection and moral hazard, as mentioned earlier on, one is about attributes and the other one is about behavior. Okay, the timing of the transaction also matters. Okay, so adverse selection occurs prior to the transaction. Okay, whereas moral hazard occurs when the transaction is done after. Okay, that results in a contractual change in behavior. Right? Okay, so you can also stick to principal agent problem with inconsistent or conflicting priorities. That is also acceptable. Okay, but I don't see a lot of schools using that. Coincidentally that both of you here belongs to the other half of the schools that use principal agent problem. So I'm going to move on to the content side. So let's do a quick check on what you have. So, okay, I've shown you the diagram. Can you guys tell me, okay, what is this good likely to be? Merit or demerit good? Just to quiz you guys. Merit or demerit? Great, thanks. Okay, it's going to be a merit good. Okay, so merit good, we are looking at underestimation of true benefits. So you want to bring an example of healthcare. Okay, you can see that consumers tend to underestimate the first party benefit, the true benefits of healthcare, longevity and higher quality. Okay, that's why they only account for their own perceived benefit and the monetary cost. Okay, while the actual benefit is substantially higher. So you can see that there's the framework here. Okay, so the identifying of this as a merit good. Okay, illustrating that there's unawareness, underestimation of the true benefits. Okay, you can use the framework MPB, MPC. MPB and MPC is actually established here already. Okay, if you haven't established in your introduction, okay, then you can expand it here. Okay, what is MPB and what is MPC? Right? Next, okay, you want to illustrate that because of the info gap, there's a divergence, okay, between MPB perceived, okay, MPB actual, and this leads to the underconsumption of your healthcare. Okay, and this results in the deadweight loss that occurs as a result of underconsumption. So you realize at the consumption level Q1, okay, your MPB actual, your MSB exceeds your MSC. And so I realized that the illustration here, the illustration or the denotion of the curves is slightly different from EIM, but still the same. Okay, if not, stick to your school so long as you label them properly. Okay, so you can see that, okay, for at the present consumption level, your MSB, okay, or your MPB actual, okay, exceeds your MSC. So it's telling you that, okay, for every additional unit of consumption of the healthcare, okay, the society benefit that you gain exceeds the society cost. And so this is quite standard as what we have discussed. Okay, just now I've given you guys the framework already. Okay, so you can actually see that this results in wrong price signaling. Okay, if you want to stick to the question, okay, because of the unpriced effect. Okay, and this leads to underconsumption, inefficient allocation of resource. So the next part, okay, oh yes, one more thing about price mechanism. A price mechanism question, it can manifest or come out from the perspective of demand and supply. So they will also ask you how resources are allocated. Okay, so when they ask you resource allocation, okay, you will want to use the SIR, okay, that we learned in demand and supply. Okay, so sorry to sidetrack, okay, but it's still relevant. Okay, if not, okay, it can also be related to the three central economic problems: for whom to produce, how to produce, and how much to produce. I hope you still remember those. So these are some of the variation of resource allocation question. Okay, if not, inefficient allocation of resources is normally market failure. I'm going to move on to the actual flavor or actual content of today, which is adverse selection. Right, so I use the example of second-hand car. Second-hand car is the easiest to understand. Okay, everyone knows that there is going to be adverse selection. So you know that the second-hand car dealers will know more info over the car, the pre-existing condition of the used car. Okay, so I'm sorry, just now I used the info about airport. Okay, but when we come back to car, okay, the examples that you need to be concerned about, okay, is the car dealers. You need to contextualize car dealers having more info, okay, over the attribute of the car. So the attribute of the car, we can look at what? Okay, the mileage of the car, okay, any pre-existing condition of the car, any accidents involved in the car. Only the producer will know. Okay, the consumer wouldn't know. Okay, but all these will affect the performance of the car. Okay, and okay, the producers, let's say if they know that the car has a major accident, okay, they will be what? Okay, they are incentivized, okay, to withhold the information, they engage in opportunist behavior. Okay, so you want to introduce opportunist behavior here. Now to withhold, okay, information that happened to the car. Okay, and to maintain a high price and profitability. So the catch, okay, listen carefully. The catch is to bring in a correct example. So sometimes in essay, for instance, your examples are fixed. Okay, they tell you they want insurance, you better bring in buyer with having more info than the seller. If you bring in the other way around, okay, you are not answering the question. Okay, that's why I bring in two separate conditions: buyer more than seller, seller more than buyer. So you can see that rational decision makers, consumers who cannot ascertain correctly what is the quality of the car that they're going to get. Okay, they are aware that they are good quality cars, they are going to be lemons. Okay, what do? They generally offer a lower price, okay, to the car dealers if they are unable to, if they're not able to find out which are the good cars and which are the poor quality cars. Okay, in modern days, we call this lowball. I think you guys better know this better. Okay, but don't put lowball, okay? It's not a term that's used in economics. Okay, so you can see that with lower price offered, genuine high quality producers will be disincentivized to sell high quality cars. And they will eventually drop out of the market, okay, because okay, it's not going to be profitable to accept lower price. So you'll realize that eventually, okay, the market will be saturated with poor quality cars, and there will be a missing market for what? Okay, high quality cars. Okay, and this results in market failure. Okay, clear so far? Okay, make sure you link back to the question. Very, very important. Now, the link is the most important part to inefficient allocation of resource. Okay, so moral hazard. Okay, I chose the first definition, okay, of the assigning of the risk, okay, to somebody else. I did not use PA problem. If you use PA problem, I will mark it separately. It's not too difficult. Right, so okay, the example of moral hazard occurs when the car driver acquires car insurance. Okay, the car driver knows that there's adequate coverage, okay, of any car accidents that happen to the car, him or her. Okay, and they can shift the risk, assign the risk to insurance agent, the insurance company. Okay, so the insurance company will have issues monitoring the behavior. Okay, there is behavior of the driver. Okay, monitoring costs will be excessively high. Okay, so there's insufficient information or unequal info. The buyer or rather the driver, okay, is going to engage in risky activities, okay, that the insurer is not able to monitor. Okay, so the car driver, okay, in this case, will pursue excessive risks such as speeding, okay, not putting on seat belt, okay, and when adverse events happen, okay, this will lead to higher cases of accident payoffs or claims. Okay, and this will lead to overconsumption of car insurance. Okay, so you will want to lead to how this over-insurance leads to unprofitable. Okay, because people are making unnecessary claims. Okay, there's a crash here, right? Okay, and they will eventually stop offering a valuable service such as car insurance. So car insurance is intrinsically valuable. Okay, but because of opportunist behavior like this, okay, this will lead to moral hazard, okay, and a missing market eventually. Alright, so missing market, this will lead to a failure in price mechanism, okay, because there's zero provision, okay, price mechanism cannot work, it will be market failure. Alright, so having said that, underestimation of true cost is accepted under demerit good. Okay, so the emphasis is on different types of info failure, okay, and not private decision making. So you will want to work on your 3 points, okay, not MPB equals to MPC solely. So for my RI friends, RI, okay, listen, this is the diagram that you need to note, okay, when you talk about demerit good. Okay, this is the diagram for demerit good, or underestimation of true cost. Okay. So that's it for today. Remember to write your name, okay, and the lesson number on the cover page. Today is lesson what? Lesson 16, right? Is it lesson 16? Yeah, lesson 16. Great. Right on the cover page. So I'm going to stop recording.